Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome. We're going to go through the stock market charts. We're going to do some technical analysis, find out what's going on, hopefully spot some good trade ideas. Before I get started, if you guys have a stock pick or a chart you want me to look at, go ahead and put that in the comments below. I'm looking for some new ideas, kind of setups for kind of the next trade, and just open to looking at anything. So put that in the comments. I do appreciate that. And then leave me a thumbs up while you're doing that, and I will take a look at those charts, see if there's anything that looks interesting. All right, let's get right into it. Triple Qs, we'll start off with tech. Again, we just roll through these sectors just to give us a general broad idea of where things might go. And I highlighted this in green right now. This is the range we're trading in triple Qs, basically. We've got 311 as our support, and yesterday you can see we dipped below it, but it wasn't an impulsive breakdown. Usually when you break support, you want to see that impulsive selling flood in where everyone realizes that support's broken and we're going lower. We just didn't see that. We just saw it kind of chopping around, which tells you that there was buying basically taking place down there, and stops being run, and it was a battleground area. Today they're just popped it back above, and we're just trading above that 311. So until I see a break of that 311, then that is support, and the resistance is basically up all the way up here at 324.50. All right, so that's it. That's your range. You could go long here if if you think perhaps this move down here at 297.50 was the actual end of this correction. It's very possible. I don't think it is, but it could be possible. So, one way to trade it is you could go long at this 311, and just trail your stops up, maybe, cover it at resistance or see if it wants to break. And then you just would exit that trade if you get the break of 311. On the daily, you can see here that I still think the daily chart, it has a higher weighting than that hourly chart that I just showed you. The daily continues to look like we're just downtrending and going to have a bounce. So yes, if I roll out, anytime you roll way out, it's going to look like an uptrend. But here's the uptrend from the March 2020 lows. You were clearly trending up. This trend line was not broken. We had to tag there, and then we broke right here. So here's your first break, and that's where we started the downtrend. So what I'm seeing is first leg down, counter trend bounce, resume the downtrend. And I'm looking at 287 area. I've got it circled. It's this trend line right here. I'm looking as the next leg down or target to the downside. And I don't see a change in posture on the daily chart that tells me we're not going to continue lower. This is a consolidation area. We got to battle through here for a little while, and I'm just waiting for that break. But I've kind of explained kind of both ways to trade it potentially. That's what I got on triple Qs. Is I think lower prices doesn't have to happen today, doesn't have to happen next week, but ultimately, as a swing trader, I'm looking to capture, the leg down. I covered my short right there at that 297 tag, and looking for the next leg down now. So ultimately, I'm looking for that break at 311. SPY. So SPY hasn't seen nearly as much selling because there's been this transition or a rotation from tech into cyclicals, and like industrials and all that there's been a rotation. So there hasn't necessarily been money coming out of the market. It's just been moving from one area to the other. That doesn't mean there's been money going into the market. And I don't think there's been money really flooding in and pushing the market higher. I think it's just coming out of one sector and going into the other. So that's why we're kind of flat basically on SPY. But we haven't broken down, so I'm still expecting a breakdown. I've got it circled target down here at like 362. That's the trend line that we come off of June, have a reaction of June 2020, we have a reaction there, reaction there, reaction there. We got four, reactions. We didn't quite hit it there, but came close. And so I'm looking at that as your trend line, and I'm looking for a move down to that. I don't know, maybe it'll hit over here. I don't know, but as of right now, that's where it's at. The other thing is we still have that negative divergence. See that big negative divergence there on the daily chart on the PPO and the RSI? That hasn't changed. That still remains. So if SPY runs up and makes a new slightly higher high, hitting this blue line right here. I have this blue line marked out. It's just going to be a divergent high, which means it's a new higher price, and yet momentum is still diverging lower. That's what that says. So divergent highs often fail. They have a high probability of failing. So if we want to run up and make a new high, it's just continuation of the divergence, and we continue to look for a reversing trend. That blue line, anybody that follows along, I'll just whip through it real quick because I get new people that come on. So this is a weekly chart of the S&P 500. This chart right here, what you're looking at is really the core to my bearish thesis, my bearishness for right now. Here's your 2009 lows, and your trend, your bullish trend for the bull market was established on this trend line. You can see reactions here, support all through here. Then in 2018, the Fed was raising interest rates, and they broke that bullish trend. And ever since 2018, we've just been oscillating in wild swings over the years, up and down basically. And to me, that's very indicative of a topping pattern where you have this just undecided direction in wild swings, lots of volatility. I mean, yes, if you look at it in just 1 year, it's just been the straight uptrend, but that was preceded by a just straight plunge too. So there's wild swings. And so you can see we break, the Fed pumps it up with stimulus. We break, the Fed pumps it up with stimulus. Again, this has all been Fed pumping. It's not earnings, all right? Earnings have not been getting better. So it is, interest rates being cut. It's money printing. It's all that. That's what's created these two rallies. And you can see where we're trading at right now. That's a blue line. We're right at resistance. So again, that's why I've been bearish really since 2018, which is when I started the channel, because we broke the bullish trend. When you have a bullish trend, you're bullish. And when you break that trend, you start to look for downside price action. And especially when we come up to this resistance area is when I get, that's when I get the most bearish. And, that's what allowed me to be short right, at the top right here. I was fully short, and I guarantee most people, because the nature of shorting is most people don't go along for the ride. So most people lose money on big downswings, and then this is when the masses make the money, is on the up move. And but you can see right we're at right here. So we're at resistance. You make your own judgment or interpretation on that. Okay, on the small cap front, IWM, we have this trend line that we were walking up. You see it right there. I'm just walking my cursor up that. We broke the trend there, and when we broke that trend, we didn't have negative divergence. That's the one thing that usually when you're trying to short something, you want to see as many indicators or setup pieces line up, and we just didn't have negative divergence. So basically it broke, but they recovered it, and it was a bear trap basically. But that bear trap ran up and made a slightly new high. Circle that right there. It was slightly higher than the former high right here, and we did that on less momentum. See down here? That's your negative divergence. And then we broke again. There's your break of trend again. That was a sell signal. Because at that point you had negative divergence, you broke trend. It seemed much more likely this was going to be the real deal, and from there we got some good follow through. There's been a counter trend bounce. I don't think the sell off in this one's done yet. So I'm looking for a move down to this lower trend line. Zooming out, this is coming off your March 2020 lows. Held support there, held support, and I'm looking for a move down to that trend line. I don't see any indication in the momentum indicators that this downtrend that started is over. All right, I don't see a reversal candlestick. I don't see bullish divergence starting to show up on the daily. If you look at the hourly, I don't even really see much. I don't see bullish divergence on the hourly. We have upward momentum right here and upward price, but there's no divergence. Typically you want to see prices falling, and then the momentum starts to turn and move up while prices continue to fall. That would be your bullish divergence, indicating that you're about to get a reversal or soon. And I don't see that. All I see is a counter trend bounce, and then we're likely going to continue the downtrend. Doesn't have to happen, but in the chart as of right now, that's what I see. I see just a counter trend bounce, and we're likely going to move lower. Okay, and for anybody that's still with me, if you're interested in learning about this technical analysis, take my course. The link is in the description below. I charge $99. I'm not giving it away for free, but it's a 5 or 6 hour course. It'll give you the skills and really give you a good understanding about how to use this style of technical analysis to your advantage. And then these videos, when I go through them on a daily basis, will really be a supplemental video to your knowledge. So again, really good value there. Link is in the description below. Okay, so let's look at some of these trade ideas I pointed out recently and just see what's going on here. Apps, you can see we just got to wait for it, but here's your uptrend line right there on the daily chart. And we broke trend right there. There's your sell signal. When we broke trend, we did have negative divergence. That just continued to build. So I was watching this one as the negative divergence continued to build, and now we broke trend. So we back test. They don't want to give it up, they don't want to give it up that easily, but I suspect this is going to continue to sell. We're looking for a break of 65.35 next, and we break that. I think we're heading all the way down to 42. All right, so I'm short this. I'm just going to remain short until the technical posture changes and gives me a reason to either cover, either at a loss or a gain. But ultimately, this chart tells me that we're going lower, so I'm looking for lower prices. AMD, big negative divergence right there. This was your negative divergence price action. So these prices were divergent highs. I have it circled there. And we have a trend line coming off 2016 lows. So a well-established multi-year trend line. This is 4 or 5 years of an upward trend. And we just broke that trend, as you can see right there. So break trend, back test, and continuing to fail. So I'm looking for lower prices here. Ultimately, I think, we break this 73.80. All right, you get an impulsive break through there, and I think you're falling straight down to about $59. All right, that's your next level of support right there. All right, so I'm remaining short on that one. No change really as of today. We're just kind of chopping around. But technically, the setup still looks good to the downside. Tesla, it's breaking this trend line coming off the it's about August 11th. You've got a couple tags of it here on the daily tag there, a couple through there. It's not my favorite trend line, but I think it is a valid trend line. And you can see right here, we held that trend again. We've broken it again, and we're below it. We're not impulsively breaking down. It's down 3%, but that's nothing for Tesla. So we'll see. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe they want to grind around this a little more. I think, we haven't even tagged the 200-day moving average yet. So I do think that's in the cards, and I do believe we're going lower. And ultimately, I think we're going to undercut that 200, hit about 460, 463.50 or so as the next level of support. Probably hold there and get a bounce. That's what I see right now. I don't have a position in this one. I'm kind of looking for the price action to see what it wants to do. We can move on. NEO, this one just continues to look good, and it continues to trade well, as you can see. So we have a nice clean uptrend line here on the daily right there. We have negative divergence. See the momentum starting to drop off. And then we broke trend right there. So there's your sell signal as I zoom in. It basically was right here. Broke trend. And we've gotten follow through, kickback rally, and continuing to trend to the downside. So the trend is down. You move down, you little bounce, continue down. So ultimately, I think we're coming into the 200-day. We're probably going to hit that today, I suspect. Let's see how much lower that has to go. Yeah, maybe not today, but the 200-day is just right there at 32.50-ish. We might get a little bounce there, but I do think we're actually heading down to this 22.17. That's your next level of support. And that one still looks good, so I'm remaining short. I've been short on this one really since up here, and we're continuing to just remain short. ZG, again, possible head and shoulders top. You have a head and shoulders. You do have that, so it doesn't have to be a top, but this is a topping pattern. And a break of the neckline, which we're starting, we're basically at the neckline right here. It's about 133. You want to see an impulsive breakdown though, so you get impulsive selling here. If that's a break of the neckline, to me that says we're heading straight down to 90 bucks. Because the way you do it is you basically measure the top of the head down to the neckline, and I use log scaling, so my line's going to tweak a little, but you see how it stretches. If I turn the log scaling off, yeah, something like that basically, and yeah, it right now I think it's putting us at about 90 bucks. Sorry, it doesn't quite line up the way when I go to show it. It's a drop of 80 bucks from the neckline, and that would be, oh, actually it's lower than that. Sorry, I guess I have that wrong. Potentially down to this level. So I guess we've got some support right here. Looks like there's right there. See the gap right there, and then as you can see right here, we held that support there, there, and there. So actually, I guess if you get the break, then it could set us up for a move all the way down to 55. Big break on that one. Now, again, this is, we could continue to put in another shoulder. You have to wait for that impulsive breakdown. Moving on, I don't see anything interesting here. Here's Carvana. I'm short this one. You've got this bearish rising wedge. You've got negative divergence on the daily, and we've got a break. There's your breakdown. This was they popped it back above, whipped out anybody, short. They covered, and then they've broken back down. You can see it's trending down now with over many days where you break, a couple days of recovery, big impulsive selling, couple days of recovery. Eventually, I think that will turn into just selling, and ultimately, I think we're heading down to this level, about 160, 160, well, depends on where it falls, because you got this gap right, let my lines adjust, you got this gap right here. We could chop around and come in with this trend line maybe right here at 175. We'll have to see where that shows up, but lower, down in this area. DraftKings is breaking down today. This one can be tricky because, all right, we have this level right here at 64.30, and that was a support level. You can see we popped above it. We broke once, recovered, and we were holding that right up in here. But this price action was divergent high price action. See the negative divergence right there? So this was a divergent high, indicating that this was likely going to get faded, and we're starting to see that get faded now. So you can see selling. They held that as long as they could, and today, impulsive breakdown. That's an impulsive breakdown. And another sell signal. Of course, you had a sell signal right here too, and they faked it out and popped it above. I think this is probably the real deal, and we're likely going to move all the way down to this trend line down here. It's probably going to come in at right about there. That's your next level of support. You can see the tag of support, 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 coming down all the way down there to 46 bucks about, and that's going to be a drop of about 25%. So I like that. I didn't quite get it at the break this morning. I didn't catch it till just now, so I don't know. I'd prefer to see it kick back and maybe hit it at resistance right there at about 65. But that is a possible, trade to the downside. Peloton, basically at support right here. There's support at 98.72. We just recently hit that, and you do have some bullish divergence. Let me mark that out right there. So this little dip down to that support level, put in some bullish divergence. So this one I'm not too interested in. Obviously it can go lower and continue to build that divergence or burn through it. But I think there's better setups. And, we caught this one perfectly. I shorted Peloton right here. I have it circled. I pointed it out in the video. You can go back and look at the video on December 22nd of last year. And you'll see me talking about how I'm entering shorting Peloton right there. So that one shorted that right there. It took a little while. We wrote, sideways, and then it broke. So that was a play of, that fell 40% or so, 38%. Nice play there. But right now I don't see it as a good setup, so we'll just move on. Etsy, look, this thing's kind of the same setup as Peloton. It hasn't broken yet, but I think it's going to. See the negative divergence right there? Big negative divergence. We're just sitting on the support shelf of about 197.50. We've just been kind of bouncing, pinging back and forth. You see they fell down and hit it. And this is your rising trend right here. Fell down and hit it, back test, fell down to support, bounce, back at support, and look at the bounce. It's just pretty muted now. So I think we're going to break And if we break, next level of support looks like about here at 167.30, and then the 200's right below it, so we'll probably undercut that and hit the 200, bounce off that. That would be a drop of about 20 to 23%. So I'll likely be covering this short at the 200 for a nice 20 to 30% gain. Here's Snap. This one looks really good to me, although we could bounce a little bit from here. So it's not we're not in an objective area to take a position. However, you can see here on Snap daily chart, let my lines catch up. You've got a clean up trend line, big gap right here, just a completely obvious gap, so everybody sees that gap. When something's super obvious, you usually don't expect it to do that obvious thing. But clean up trend line right there. Big negative divergence. I have it marked out right there on the daily. And we broke trend. So here's your break. Broke here, but they whipped it back. All the tech sectors had a short little bear trap. They all have it. So for the most part. So, but this looks like the real deal. With continued selling, fell right down to support. First level of support 48.20. You can see we held that right through here. Hit it. Multiple times. So we're holding that in this area. So what can this do? Well, right here is not the best area, but if we can move up to 54.80 area, that's a good area to potentially short. Or you could run up and do a full back test. You don't know what it's going to do, but I still look at the bigger picture of broken trends. So kickback rallies, it's a sell the rip market. When you rally into resistance after you've broken a trend, that's where you take a position short, at least from my opinion. And so I'd be looking at taking a position there. I just covered this snap short right here yesterday at 48. So move higher, I'd reshort it up here or potentially a kickback rally. And I'm looking for it to break down and, make a move towards filling that gap. I don't know if it's going to fully fill it because it's so obvious. I don't think it'll fully fill it on the first shot. I think we're going to run down, get close to filling the gap, and they're going to step in and buy it, and it's going to rally back up, and then it'll chop around and then roll over eventually and fill that gap in the near future. What I'd be more interested in is just shorting the move on that first move down towards the gap and just cover as we start to get down there. Okay, I'm going to close with this HMY, gold stock. It's very interesting looking. So the gold miners still look constructive. They're still hanging in there. It takes time to build momentum. But here's what we got going on this HMY. We have a downtrend line right there on the daily chart. We have bullish divergence showing up down here. All right, so started to get some bullish divergence showing up down here. This price action right in here, let me go ahead and circle that. Let's get my little circle tool. I think that's it. There it is. That's a divergent low. All right, so with bullish divergence, you make a divergent low, and we ran right into some support, some former support areas. You can see they were former resistance right in here and here. So I marked it out in this green area as kind of a buy zone. And what we had is basically, let me get rid of that. We hit that support and held. Bounced right up to that trend line, and we got rejected, came back down and hit the support again, and we're bouncing again. So I think we're going to break. I think we're going to break to the upside. We haven't broke yet, so obviously you could just wait for an impulsive breakout as a buy signal. But to me, it looks like it's been building energy as it hit this support. We got bullish divergence, got rejected, come back. We're making, this is a higher low, is what I'm trying to point out. Higher low, here's a low, here's a higher low. We're starting to show signs of reversing trend. So I think we're going to break and make a higher high and start that uptrend. All right, and it doesn't mean we don't have it yet. So obviously, depending on how if you want to wait for the break, that's fine. But to me, it's starting to set up. It looks good. I've got a position in it. If that changes and maybe we break down and it's a fake out or something, then obviously that will change my outlook. But as of right now, it's starting to look good to me. I'm going to wrap up there, get this one out, and I'll if anything crazy happens, maybe I'll put an end of the day video. Let me know, guys, if you want me to do a live video tomorrow. I might do it. Otherwise, I'll catch you guys on the next one.